Kanti awuzawushaya i-national anthem le yethu. Ithi le besicula last week. Yes. Nkosi sikelela iNu-Afrika. Maluphakanyi luphondo lwayo. Yezwa imikhanda zoyo yethu. Sibe moya sekunzima emhlabeni sehlukunyezwa kabuhlungu Nkosi sipha amandla okunqoba silwe nosatha Nkosi sikelela e-Afrika. Maluphakanyi luphondo lwayo. Nkosi sipha amandla okunqoba sibe moya sekunzima emhlabeni sihlukunyezwa kabuhlungu Nkosi sipha amandla okunqoba silwe nosatha Thokozini. Sithi sivuse sukumisa amadlozi eAfrika ngoba into esiyidingayo le i-unity. Without i-unity yethu ayikho vele into esizoyachieve. Ngithi ngibonga indlovukazi, andlovukazi. 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 Anomdudula. Anomdudula. Anokhaya. Anokhaya. Anobandla. Anobandla. Amvilinqangi. Amvilinqangi. Aramasedi. Aramasedi. ImHotep. ImHotep. Avusamazulu. 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 Thokozani. Isihloko sethu ke namhlanje sikhuluma ngo-ImHotep. Mesikhuluma ngo-ImHotep, sikhuluma ngomuntu oke waphila. It's not a principle this time. It's somebody that once lived. Meaning ukuthi uSekhmet manifested as ImHotep. uSekhmet manifested as Ubabu Credo. Because to me, Ubabu Credo, it was a manifestation of ImHotep. The way Begengakon Ubabu Credo was a multi-genius as well. Ubabu Credo was an architect, Ubabu Credo was a scientist, Ubabu Credo was a healer, Ubabu Credo was everything. So, njengo ImHotep, ImHotep mesizwa, he was a commoner, but a commoner that ended up advising and counseling 4 kings of Kemet. So Ubabu Credo naye ubelapho. It's just that ingane zakhe were still suffering. The residue of a colonial mindset whereby abamuzwa ukuthi. Otherwise, Ubabu Credo bokumele kube advisor of all presidents on the continent. But now, because of colonization and the normalization of a colonial mindset, that is why we're not able to give credit to where it's due when it comes to Ubabu Credo. ImHotep, njengoba ngisho ukuthi ImHotep regarded himself as the son of Ptah. Ptah, remember in the triad, it's Ptah, uSekhmet, then uNefetum. UNefetum, who is the same thing as Heru. So it depends, on which cosmology you follow, as a Kemet. So ImHotep, it was the manifestation of uSekhmet. Yingakho, when we honor, we do the ceremony ga ImHotep, ga Sekhmet, we saying we are honoring ImHotep, because that is the person who actually manifested physically. Umuntu namanje ithuna lakhe mesingaya lapha in the Saqqara complex, we will find ithuna lika ImHotep in the complex ka Josa, King Josa. ImHotep was the advisor of King Josa. Njengoba sisho ukuthi he was just a commoner, befana nam now. Kepha he was able to show ukuthi wakhethwa izulu nomhlaba ukuthi lokho yoba ngaye ukuthi thina si communicate nezulu nomhlaba through this person. Ungena kanjani ugain popularity. Remember ukuthi ImHotep is one of the high priests of inkolo ka Ra, those that follow Ra. So he was the high priest, umuntu lo who had attained the state of being the son of light. Why? Because he was able to communicate directly with Mvelinqangi noNomkhubulwane and actually then disseminate that information and assist, a community when it comes to its, growth. So ukuthi kwenzakaleni ke, there was ilenduza, meaning ukuthi the Nile, the Happy River, was dry for about 7 years. There was no water flowing on the Nile. But then the King Josa, King Josa then called upon ImHotep and say, ImHotep, please find out as to why is the water not flowing. Water is associated with wealth. Water is associated with, life itself. So if the Nile is no longer serving, that economy of Kemet. Then it was a worry because there was then a drought, then there was famine. Even crime rose. Why? Because there was scarcity of resources. So ImHotep advised the king to say, the principle or the god of the Nile, which is Num, was angry with the king because the king no longer honors Num, that principle, which is the god of the Nile. Then the king, ordered that, a statue or a temple or umsamo Num should be constructed. Then after that, the Nile started flowing again, which means ukuthi Umoya was then saying to the king, we are in control, not you. Do you understand? So yingakho kusemqoka ukuthi we honor like people or imoya efana neka Babu Credo, because lelo dlozi yidlozi lelo esil experience in the physical, and sabona sa experience izinto zakhe azenzile la emhlabeni. That is why ImHotep end up being deified, meaning ukuthi ama Romans were then praying to him. Maybe ngakhoni omama ukuzala, they would go to the shrine ka ImHotep and go and pray there. After lapho izinto zenzakala. Why? Because that is the energy engisho ukuthi energy when it manifests in the physical sibona ngezenzo, not what people say in their words. Sibona ngezenzo zakhe umuntu sithi lo ama actions akhe are correlator with the character of this principle. So siyazi ukuthi that principle has manifested fully to mengikhuluma ngo ImHotep ngikhuluma about the whole philosophy of Kemet, because ImHotep, he's the one who introduced the Medu nature, the divine words. He's the first person to write. They say he was the patron of the scribes, meaning Gucci, all the scribes in ancient Kemet, before they write something, they pour libation to ImHotep. So ImHotep uye osinikeze the philosophy that we follow. And as if philosophy ayithole esikolweni beke kuzo, it's divinely inspired. Wayibhala phansi ukuthi umoya umveli nqangi nomkhubulwane bathi this is how we should actually live. Yingakho they ended up coming up with the laws of Ma'at that are supposed to then guide us as we live on earth as to how do we live. So ImHotep, yingakho sithi is a multi-genius. Remember when they talk about eBhayibhelini bakhuluma ngo Enoch, bakhuluma ngo ImHotep. When you hear the Greeks bakhuluma ngo Thoth, they are talking about ImHotep. When you hear them talk about the person uJehuti, bambiza uTehuti, Thoth, that is ImHotep. When you hear about that, right angle, triangle, theorem, it was ImHotep, not to Pythagoras. So he's the first, person to actually, he was the first astronomer, ImHotep. ImHotep is the first guy to introduce a calendar in Kemet. ImHotep was the first person to actually, the best architect in the whole world at the time, because he was the first one. When they talk about, a stone mason, they are talking about a builder who builds with stone. So ImHotep started that because before there was a prevalence of everything that is built or constructed, they use mud bricks. ImHotep is the first one to use limestone bricks to construct what is called the step pyramid. What is the step pyramid? Remember ukuthi before amakhosi eKemet bebengcwatshwa in what is called the mastaba, right? Mastaba yini? It's a rectangular structure that they would construct underneath, kubeke nendawo ke that is exclusive, for lentuza ibhokisi lenkosi of the king. So they would use that, but it was just one layer, a triangular layer. So ImHotep came with the idea. He was building now a final resting place. Remember ukuthi thina mesingcwaba umuntu besingamngcwabeli nje emgodini sigubha umgodi bokuba yindlu, sometimes a palace la kulele khona inkosi. So during the development yezinto eKemet, remember na into kumele ngicacise, there is a common notion ukuthi ImHotep is the first builder yama pyramid, but only in Kemet, because ama pyramid aqale la eMpumalanga. The first pyramids before those in Egypt, they are older than the pyramid ka ImHotep. They are here in Mpumalanga. So manje, in your mind, in your consciousness, bring that in, because you'll be bombarded by the idea that was the first. Maybe it was the second, because it was the same people who left here in the south. Then in Zalo yabo ke kwazalwa, in that process, people like ImHotep, who then took over, were able to actually get these messages, from the cosmic, world, and decode them, and then practicalize lento abayitholile. So eKemet, he's the first one to start a pyramid, building a pyramid, through what I was explaining. It will be the first layer, a rectangular, layer. Then I beg the second one. It must be smaller than the first one. The third one smaller, until it formed a pyramid. So that started now a group of Masons. Masons are people who build with stones. So these were the first people. So before Guba, nale complex yase Giza, Saqqara was the first. Saqqara gave way and gave an idea for people to then master, the art of building a pyramid. Before Guba, the pyramid of Giza, the great pyramid of Giza, which is at the center of earth, there was Saqqara complex, built by ImHotep. He did that. Ubab Credo, he's the first one to build ImHotep, ilenduza pyramid ngochana. La Jablan. If you go there, you will see the structure. So ingakho ngithi, for me, Ubab Credo, umoya, the same energy that embodied the body of ImHotep. The way bengakhona. So out of the Saqqara complex, the first pyramid, which is the step pyramid, had 7 steps. So that number 7 as well, it's significant, to our African, spirituality. So then from lapho kwase kulenduswa kumastarwa the art of building pyramids until they built the Saqqara complex yama pyramids, right? I said, he was the first astronomer. He's the one before Abo Kepler. Kepler ingane ku ImHotep. Abo Kepler studied Abo ImHotep. For them to actually understand, the serious star formation. They knew why, because they were studying, but they would not acknowledge ukuthi they were studying Abo ImHotep. There was no other genius at the time. There were people abazamayo, but ImHotep was the greatest. Nabelungu, they do agree, to that notion. Then it comes to medicine. ImHotep, kahle kahle, abo doctor base Africa should be taking the Bible, the oath of ImHotep. Not Hippocratic, hypocrites. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to, because the father of medicine, as per research and available information, is ImHotep. And he's the first one who started what you now call Western medicine. Why? Because he was the first one. Ubeqale einyanga njengamnawe koko na wonke umuntu oyinyanga. Uqale kanjalo ImHotep, but he was able to actually move above lokho sikwenzayo. Wathatha, the active elements kulama herbs, took them to lab to form synthetic medicine. For abelungu to have a foundation of Western medicine, they had to study ImHotep. So in future, yingakho ke thina abanenhlanhla saba nesabelo ukuthi we should be able to actually hear and reconnect back, to nature, because lento siyenzayo reconnect back to nature. There was nothing special about abo ImHotep into bebeyenza. It was reconnecting back to nature. And there be open vessels so that they are able to actually decode these messages that come from above. So ImHotep was the best, at the time in terms of medicine. Washiya what is called angazi labantu, they end up crediting themselves because there's the papyrus scroll which is called the Edwin Smith papyrus, which contains all the formulas ImHotep left for us. Abelungu bazithatha those formulas bioforma what is called Western medicine, which is plagiarism in itself. Why? Because you are not honoring the owners or the creators of that content. So now sesazi ukuthi Western medicine yiyo, kanti it got its foundation from here. There was bengamba nenkosana la uThulani yangibiza kunomhlangano lapha eVets. They were saying ukuthi mele kuhlanganiswe inyanga together with Western doctors, meaning ukuthi inyanga must be accommodated in these white hospitals. So there's that effort, but now akuna mechanism as to izoyenzakala kanjani lento. Why? Because Western medicine claims superiority over African medicine. It's the other way around. African medicine informed Western medicine. It's not the other way around, whereby manje we must be accommodated. If kahle besinabaholi abaqotho, sinenhlanhla thina ngoba sinenkokheli la siyayibona ngezenzo zayo ukuthi izosihola ngendlela erayi Mlaphikazi. Thokoza. So mesinabaholi aba-right la emakhanda, we won't be confused about these issues, because these issues, umntwana omncane that grows up knowing about Einstein, no Newton, but knows nothing about ImHotep, uyibulele leyo ngane. You even pay a premium colonizer. Ibuya la yazi nje uNewton, yazi no Einstein as the people, who were significant in terms of science at the time, but it's not true. About Einstein, about Newton, they were studying ImHotep. Remember ukuthi ImHotep through Lentuza, there was a stone, a scientific stone that King Shabaka wrote. He was then preserving in knowledge that was written by ImHotep. Hey, Ushabaka stone contains, all the scientific formulas, even, what was difficult for Einstein and Newton to actually discover. Bahambela, bangayisolvanga lo problem. Into yoguti, all the four energies of the world, where do they collapse to? So there is a doctor in Nigeria, Dr. Oyibo. Through studying the Shabaka stone, he was able to resolve that, a formula mathematically, but still Abelungu reject. Why? Because Professor Oyibo didn't use their model in terms of calculating, the solution. He used or relied on ancient knowledge system, which was written, in the Shabaka stone. So when you talk about, I don't know whether, Bakona Bayazi or the Hermetica. The Hermetica, it's one of, the books that Greeks credited themselves. They say, Guti, it was written by Jehuti. Who thought, yes, who is Jehuti? But it's in Asians, Guti, those were just principles. Umuntu, the writer, ImHotep. Yes. Yingako he's associated with Jehuti, ImHotep. Meaning Guti, Jehuti, ImHotep relied on that connection with the principle of communication, which is Jehuti, for him to actually receive, and download all this knowledge. When you talk about the Book of the Dead, in the African sense, it's called the Book of Coming Forth. You're talking about ImHotep. But they would never tell you that. Lendo study Shayo. Remember, this book that we are studying, The Magic of Ancient Egypt, is an interpretation, one of the interpretations of the Book of Coming Forth. Abelunga Bibles are the Book of the Dead. It's nothing more. It's nothing new. Yincwadi kaImHotep. But manje it has many interpretations from Abodaki, Abelungu, all people in the world who are studying Kemet. So we chose this one, not because it's special, but it's because it's an easy access to this philosophy as a Kemet. So once you then understand this one, you can then tackle the Book of Coming Forth. You can tackle Incwadi kaMwata, Ashby, the Kemetic, tree of, life. So it's all ImHotep. Izinto ezenziwe ImHotep zonke lezo. So philosophy that we actually follow is the philosophy kaImHotep. They credit him with, bringing writing. Remember, I spoke about Medu Nature. He's the first one to come up with those, symbols, which then tell a story. So he's the one who promoted symbolic thinking, especially because being initiated in Kemet, it was just a normal thing. It will be abnormal for you, Uguti, ukule to the age of 21, being ignorant of these, spiritual, concepts. So ImHotep is one of the people that actually assisted us to actually be able to understand, the cosmic laws, the cosmic structure, and, that thing, Uguti, as above, so is below. Everything that is above should be mirrored down here. It's all ImHotep. So sikhuluma ngeqhawe lamaqhawe and umuntu namhlanje ama-Greek ayamthandaza. Bamthandaza ngelinye igama lama-Greeks bathini ImHotep. Yes. ImHotep, something like that. But manje sebemnikeze a Greek name like uJehuti. Bambiza uThoth. It means all the gods of Kemet, or the principles of Kemet, they then got new names when it comes to Greek and the Roman spirituality. It wasn't spirituality because it was a religion. They took what is natural, then the human form, so that you are then not able to actually connect yourself to that principle. So mesikhuluma ke ngo ImHotep sikhuluma ke about Africa's genius. Si proud ingakho kumele si internalize the information. Lento esiyenzayo ukususa ubulwembu emehlweni, because we want a better future that is founded on the foundation of our spirituality, the original spiritual structure. So that is the future we need, not a future that is based on a religion. Religion, Pella, remember, it's something that confines you into this particular, following. Maumroma ulandela la, maulenduza, and onke ama lenduza amasonto wabelungu. So Tina, we are spiritual people. Tina sikhonza in nature, not to Abraham. ImHotep na siyamkhonza ngoba he deserves ukuthi simkhonze because of izenzo zakhe. Sibone ukuthi he's the one who manifested as uSekhmet. So mesikhonza uSekhmet, sikhonza ImHotep. He's the only one. So Tina, we are about nature. We are not about the ego of people. So ingakho ke, ingane and the future leaders need to understand the content, because this is the content of the future. Ungathi wena sesambile in 30 years, 40 years. Indlovukazi says hola la bese uzositshela ngabo Einstein. Ngenapho Einstein in our lives? Ngoba Einstein ingane man. No Newton ingane. Lo bathi is the father of philosophy. Ubani lo ama-Greek. Socrates, angazi bonke lama fake la. So ungazositshela ngalabo bantu in future. Siyaku-accepta lokho and sibhadala i-premium namhlanje ukuthi ingane zethu ziyoba colonized. But if future must be different, these are figures that you need to know and understand as an African person if you want to lead us. Ungaslead, how can you lead us when you are ignorant of yourself? The first thing Kemet says, know yourself. So manje mawufuna leader thina, you need to convince us hayi ngamagama ngezenzo ukuthi you deserve to lead us. Otherwise, you don't qualify. Lapho akuyi ngamavote. Ukuthi wena uarticulate ukhona ukuconvince abantu abangakanani. Hayi, asingeni leyo. Sifuna history yakho ukuthi ubuyaphi. Wenzeni? During the difficult times, where were you? Were you sitting at the table with the enemy? Manje ngoba izinto seziyashintsha sozalanga kithi. Sizoyifuna lo history. So, ukuprepare ke future leaders. The content. The content learner will give us the ability to set up our own schools. Kumanje nje we can set up from a crash to university. Once nje singathola proper support. Ngoba lento akumelanga siyikhulume kube itheory, kumele siyiphilise. Sifundise nje ngomsebenzi kaImHotep, ngomsebenzi kaBab Credo, ngomsebenzi kaShekhanta Diop, ngomsebenzi kaTheophile Obenga. These 4 people can just feel the content of our universities and crash and all the high schools and everything. It's the will. Don't normalize colonization. Tina, we are planning for a future. And a future that will never break again. Sikhathele ukuya phambili sibuye, siye phambili sibuye. We need to go forward. Hey, because manje, ama decisions that were deferred in 94, sidila ngawo namhlanje. Instead of us surpassing abo ImHotep and be really connecting Nezulu, we are not able to do that because we've got to correct ama mistake obaba wethu. They deferred my decision in 94. Now we have to correct that before we move forward. How do we move forward when everything is still a mess? It's still locked in that physical and the ego cassette. So we need to move towards Uheru. ImHotep was one of the followers of Heru. That is why he was the high priest, in terms of, the Ra Institute of Kemet. Why? Because he was the follower of the sun. The Heru is the sun. It's not a physical person. You are not following ego. That is why even our national symbol should reflect ukuthi without the sun and the moon, there's no life on earth. So if you don't acknowledge that, you'll be like King Josa. Kulokho kutry. Because we are not acknowledging the source of power. What animates you? What gives you energy for you to be able to wake up in the morning? We are not acknowledging that. That is why we are experiencing a dryness as a nation. Until we are able to siyohlonipha umvelinqangi as a nation. Siliphakamisa igama lakhe noNomkhubulwane asiyindawo. It will always be dry like the river Nile at the time of Josa. Until ayobuze emoyeni ukuthi how do I unlock this? ImHotep was there, a commoner who ended up advising 4 kings. Ngomoya and nothing else. So ipower yethu ikulo moya. We need to reconnect nalo moya. And singasitsheli nje sizikhohlile ukuthi sizoya phambili sishiya umoya emuva. Never. So besiyadlala. Umoya mele uhambe phambili. Hey. Buka angazi how singayivalela kanjani into that made our ancestors so great. How do we block that and say ukuthi thina sohamba ngenyama sishiya umoya emuva? Ibenze baba the best of everything because all they needed was to meditate, tsipa, and be able to connect with the universe. That's all they needed. I-universe then yehlise isambulelo kubo ukuthi this is how the future should be. Directly from umvelinqangi noNomkhubulwane. So future leadership should actually be aware ukuthi this is what Africa needs. I-Africa yonke futhi ayikho indawo engcono. You go all over the continent. Colonization. Colonization. All over the continent, ayikho ikhantri ongayikhomba ukuthi le ingcono bahamba ngalo moya. Ngisho abanika futhi asamanikazi ama-fake lapha e-Egypt, lama-Arab. All the symbols that are there, that are supposed to empower them, they're ignorant of the content that is there. They only use those symbols to benefit in terms of tourism. To prove ukuthi asindawo yabo leya. When it comes to Mecca, bayiflathela. They go to Saudi Arabia. Baflathela iKemet, Egypt, and go to Saudi Arabia. Ukuyoconnecta. Nale nkosi yabo efeke singayazi ukuthi ikuphi lapha kuleza indonga yini lelitshe labo leli. Abantu abanjalo mina I don't have mercy for. If you can entrap my spirituality, we are worse than evil. You refuse for me to connect with nature. Ngezinto mina engizibhidlile. Uyayazi leyo nto ukuthi Kemet, Egypt is the Mecca of all African people. When you go and occupy that place, uyibamba uyigodle. I-Africa ikhona uconnecta nomoya wayo because of your ego and evilness. Then you find these leaders, Zabotaki, who are saying nothing about it. Go to lapha Mecca. Ukhiphe laba bantu endaweni yabo, they will kill you, man. Because now you are touching the Holy of Holies, the sacred, structure, some Arab. Tina, our Mecca, our sacredness is being violated every day. We don't even know it. How many people, knew about ImHotep before today? Idlanzana labantu. Because of such things. But manje umoya uti, we don't focus our energies on those negative things. Those things will come back to us naturally. As long as we connect back to nature, we will get Egypt back. Umoya is saying to us, Umsusa, the origins of what finally became Egypt, is here. It's here in South Africa. So asibakhohlwe the evil people and rebuild like higher, because this is where it all started. Yingakho ke senza lezi zinto esizenzayo. Remember ukuthi sathi lapha enzalo yelanga, it has got to be our new Mecca. Or not even our new Mecca, we're reviving the old Mecca of Africa. All black people internationally, kumele sihlangane enzalo yelanga once or twice a year. Hey, when we talk about African unity, we are talking about such things. Ungakhulumi nge-unity, but we are doing nothing about it. Besihlangene manje nge-25 zika May, Africa Day. What's the symbol? It symbolizes. It's a symbol without substance. The Africa Day. Why? Because siqilazwa yilama decisions alamakhehla namhlanje. That is why we don't know about inzalo yelanga. Why? Because lama presidents of the continent who decided to preside over theft. This is what is killing us today. So I cannot celebrate ukufa kwami, because ukufa kobukhosi on the 25th of May, when they decided to form the OAU. That was the final nail on the coffin of Kosi. Ukuthi amakhosi will never emerge again. Ku-emerge the greedy inzalo yamakhosi. Yiyo manje that is protecting the colonizer structure that is ruling the whole of the continent. These republics on the continent are a crime against us. Well, akusho mina kuphela in 1974, UN came up with that statement. South Africa is a crime against humanity. Bebe kulmangana, I'm a police, they are talking about the structure that is promoting those policies. That structure is still well alive today. All over the continent, Africa is ruled by republics. Until these republics are destroyed, Africa is going nowhere. Izoloko nje ilokhu ifaka ama puppet. Every time kuvotwa, a new puppet comes. and takes over the work of the master. Until sibuso ubukhosi, and the high ubukhosi, that is a symbol of ukuthi amakhosi ama-symbol e-privilege. No, asifuni lobo ubukhosi thina. Ubukhosi bomoya mele sibone ngezenzo zakho ukuthi you deserve to rule us. Singahlupheka kangaka namhlanje kunamakhosi angasenzeli lutho. So it's a double sword. Ama-politicians, amakhosi. Simi sodwa. Siloko sithi inkosi isikele. Ayisikelele vele inkosi. I-daddy semidlwebe amongst us, so that we are able to grow. Hey, Tina, we're Africans, and we are proud of being Africans. So if you have a problem with your identity, stop ukusikhohlisa. Call yourself a leader of African people. When you are by default an agent of a colonizer, because you are perpetuating that structure, do they ever question themselves and do introspection? They don't. They don't. So, yingakho kumele sikhulume ngalezinto. So that is quite clear. Ukuthi inkinga yethu yini. Abelungu dala baphume eAfrica. How many years since Ghana was, so-called liberated? How many years? Hey. Huh? Hey, how many years, mind? Huh? Hey, somewhere there. It's courtesy Italy's. But you couldn't change Africa. What change do you see in Africa? It's worse. Why? Because the system of governance that is then all over the continent, it's wrong. Legally and morally wrong. So, in future, remember, we are not concentrating on any negativity. We are building ourselves. But in future, we will have the right to take those people to court. Because every day we are sitting in that parliament, we are violating my human rights as an African person. By promoting the structure Sabelung, you are violating my rights. Buka Majuda. Amajuda will never end going after the people who put them in ovens. Tinage, what about us? Don't we have the same rights? We are zenzela lakithi. Why? Because silele, siyizimvu. We are sheep, being led by a blind person. Because what's the point of having two eyes if your spiritual eye is dead? Awuboni kusasa. Lo moya mele ukunikeze ikusasa namhlanje. And how to even get there. That is why we had people like Abo ImHotep. We had people like Ubab Credo. I still cry every day. Just for me to realize the wealth of knowledge Ubab Credo was trying to teach us as an African. Waze wahamba emhlabeni esikhesa. Kuthi anginandaba ukuthi kwenzakalani ngale ingane zami. They rejected me. Why? Not because Ubab Credo didn't make sense. Ubab Credo is our ImHotep. Ubab Credo didn't make sense. Why? Because we had normalized the colonization like that. Umlungu ute. The right angle triangle is ega Pythagoras. Manje Ubab Credo ungenaphi lapha. That's the thing. So ngiyacela Makhesha, remember ukuthi in the chakra system, a symbol of earth, it's an elephant. the elephant moves slow, but la idlule khona kuyabonakala. So nathi mele sihambe kanjalo singajahi, because si build a future that will be forever and ever be there if we put the proper foundation. Singenza amaphutha because siqhutshwa ukuthi I want, me and my family. That time is up. You don't belong. Good leadership mawusacabanga kanjani. You need to think of umvelinga. Ukuthi, how do I reconnect my people to umvelinga so that they are able to thank umvelinga themselves? Sishaywa kanje ngoba imajority yethu iflathele the source of power. Umvelinga nomkhubulwane. Don't you get upset if ingane yakhe ingakubongi? You get upset. I appreciate lo mntwana lo. What about ilanga nenyanga? Siyazibona these cosmic bodies every day. Melishona elinye liyavuka ngapha. But we give no thanks. Yingakho sizoshaywa. Kepha thina ke uzwa kuthiwa uSekhmet wathunyelwa umvelinqa to destroy humanity. And uSekhmet wakujabulela lokho because ebona ukuthi what's the point ukuthi umvelinqangi abe ne million of people but who have violated Ma'at and continue to violate Ma'at, which causes a disruption in the cosmic order because of your consciousness. You have violated and you continue to violate Ma'at. So what is the point of you living? That is when Urat decided, would let me send my daughter Sekhmet to go and deal with them. Sekhmet dealt with the people with that fire. Sasha. What is this chokweni? Beses chokweni vele because besisha. The fire from Sekhmet. So Makesha, we need to, reconnect. Lendo le, it's urgent. Asinto ukuthi, because it causes that disharmony, not only in our lives, but in the whole cosmos. Because Tina, we are part of that, energy. If we don't feed back to the cosmos, Sanjay, it weakens, the power base. So, yinto seriously, singayithathi kalula nje ukuthi abantu baya-violate, they keep on violating, then that won't have an impact in my life. It would. So let us stop being selfish. Sike sicabangele amadlozi that want to ukuphefumula through our bodies. The ancestors want to express, fully express through us. Thina sibavalele because of our consciousness. Hayi lo muntu meselele Satan idlozi. Umamakho okuzele uhambe emhlabeni seke idemon. Ukugula okunjani lo? Sick. Remember, labantu they even ignore the dictates the science. The science says you can never destroy energy. It doesn't matter kanjani, energy can never be destroyed. So mamako no mkhulu wako no koko bako, they are still alive in the spiritual, the etheric realm. You must never be confused there, with that. Kushobona ngale science. Abayithole like it. Ba confirm lento yabo ImHotep ukuthi energy can never be destroyed. Bese ke uyavuma wena ukuthi ubaba wakho sokudemon. Uvuma kanjani ukhula yini la ekhaya? Umuntu okulethe emhlabeni ngoba kasekho manje ngoba ulethwe umoya wakhe. It's not his physicality. Umoya that created you. Thokozani.
Okay, a round of applause for Mkhulu. Indeed, Mkhulu, we really need to reconnect. And that is the most